afternoon to those at the last row as well. Can you understand me clearly? Yeah? I heard this is your third lecture in a row, so I can imagine it's going to be hard to keep your attention. Hopefully I can grasp your attention sufficiently. I don't think we will need the full hour, so hopefully it would be nice, wouldn't it? And just to keep you a bit, to wake you up maybe a bit after your 2 hours of listening, I would like to start with a brief recap of what we did last week. Because last week you had my first lecture, then you had a lecture by Marco Askus. So let's see after a week what you still remember. Normally I don't want you to take your mobile phones. This time I do want you to take your mobile phones for a brief Kahoot. What I would like you to do, if I can get everyone's attention, maybe most of you already know how it works. Go to kahoot.it and enter this code. I already see quite a lot of players joining, so very good. Do we have anyone who did not enter yet? So you're joining. Okay. One leaving. And in again. Okay. Let's get started. Well, I have 5 questions, and the 5 questions, they shouldn't be too difficult. So, well, at least I thought they're not too difficult. 30 seconds per question. So read carefully and answer quickly. Good luck. If you give me a chance to give feedback, you immediately learn for this for your exam. We talked about the first week about the soft and the hard version of human resources management. The hard version focuses on results. How many sales did you make? How many new clients did you find? Those are the hard results. Soft HRM focuses on the development of your personnel. Well, so that's the main difference, soft and hard version. Okay, next question. Still some people doubting. If you look at this question, may I get everyone's attention again, otherwise it won't work. If you look at this question, here it is really about who is responsible for defining the recruitment and selection procedures. So this is about policy writing, bless you, of human resources development. And that specifically is a task of the human resources department, so the resources staff. It's not usually the line manager. They don't write and they don't come up with the new procedures. So this is specifically a staff function. Next question. Who should have appraisal interviews with employees during the year? This is a wrong answer I put in. My apologies. You, the ones who put in the 37, you are correct. My mistake. This is indeed something that the line managers do. So otherwise, well done. So don't look at the scores anymore. They're mixed up now. Which HR instrument should be filled in textbooks 4? I'm glad. That's so you're getting there. Very well. And the last question. What is not a task of HRM? Okay. Well done. And who is Selena? Well, congratulations. Well done, Selena. Okay. It was a brief refreshment to see some of the main elements that I taught you during the first lecture. Hopefully it refreshes your memory. But this is, and luckily most of you answered it correctly. I asked you what should be filled in at text box number 4, and that is appraisal, but this is the entire HR cycle. We started off last week with Margot Askes, and she gave you a first insight into recruitment and selection procedures. How do they work? How do you select the best person at the right spot in your company? After you selected people, people start doing their work. You appraise them for their work, and if they don't work well, or if they need some improvement, you get to the point of maybe they might need some training and development. That's for now. So this is today's lecture will be about training and development issues. So the statements, if you look at training and development, this is one of the difficulties that you encounter within HR. And if you look at tourism nowadays, my colleagues, they just went to BCD Travel, a big business travel company, and they're in the middle of a crisis. Because business travelers, what do they do nowadays? Do they still travel as much as they used to in the past? Not really, no. More and more, they start doing conference calls, they Skype, they do all other things. They don't take the planes as they used to do. So if you look at them, if you look at American Express, Casa Mogoli Travel, BCD Travel, they need to cut down their company. And that's quite difficult. So they just had a talk with the HR department there, and they said, well, this is what we do now. We do downsizing. We start to outsource some of the elements we don't need within our company anymore. And we do automation. We try to replace people by computers. And then you get to training and development. So the question here is, like, in an economic crisis, is it wise to reduce your training costs? What if you would be the HR manager? Would you reduce the training costs? I don't think so. Not at all, even here. It's difficult. At times you see, oh, training costs, that's the easiest to cut on. It's easier than to lay people off. But on the other side, it's the time that you invest in your new people to get to something new. So this is one of the dilemmas with training. Another one, you cannot measure the effect of trainings. I'm going to have a look at you. Do you agree with this statement? Yeah? You agree you can't measure the effect of a training?
Depends what training it is, right? Because maybe you can see results, maybe.
Depends on the kind of training. Well, we'll get into this because this is one of the difficulties that some people see. Okay, I send you on a training. It will cost, I'm now looking for new trainings, and if I go on a 3-day training, it might be as expensive as €3,000 for a 3-day training. It's not abnormal. So if they invest €3,000 in me, how will they know that they will get a return in investments?
By comparing the performance before the training and after the training?
Could be by comparing my performance before and after. It's not always that easy to do so, but it could be a nice thing to do it as such. We'll get into some more of them, see what it is, but at least this is one of the difficulties. What about this? Is this true? Training and development are synonyms. No, someone says. We're going to have ask someone here, and I'm going to ask it to you. Are they synonyms? someone who already is in the company? So the productivity, okay.
Training? Yeah, or training can be to, yeah, development can be well, training is to learn something new.
Training is to learn something new. Okay, which is more long term, training or development? Development is more long term. Okay, that is correct. So training usually more like the one time, the thing you need now. It's a short-term investment that you make. Development, on the other hand, is more long-term. It's trying to invest in your people and your talents. So if you look at it, training usually focuses on your current job, while development might also be what's your new job that you're going to do in the future. Training usually more on the individual employee, while development might be on a bigger group as a whole. Time frame, training immediate, development on the long term. And this is nicely what you said, the goal, well, for the training usually it's a quick fix of a current skill deficit, while development, it's more to prepare for the entire future. We're now redesigning the curriculum of our academy. And now we're thinking about, okay, one of the things we want to teach new students is e-tourism. Do we have all the lecturers at this moment who are capable of giving all e-tourism courses? No, not yet. We have some, but we only have a few lecturers who can really give these lectures. So we're going to face a shortage in our personnel. So already we are starting to work on a development program and thinking about who are we going to develop to make sure that in 3-4 years time that we can give accurate e-tourism subjects more than we currently already do. So what we talk about, and I want to go with you through a training cycle, and it sounds like, okay, training, it's not a very difficult cycle to go through, but this is usually what the cycle looks like. Training always should start with the question, it starts with the needs assessment. Identifying who needs training, understand what the needs are of the company, then you start selecting the right trainings, and you evaluate whether or not the trainings were useful. But then if you ask for a needs assessment, you ask it on various different levels. You ask it on the level of the person. What does the individual need? You ask for the job, the task itself. Do you need more training on that job? Or as a whole, as an organization, what are the precise needs? So this is a crucial task. Who identifies these needs? If we talk about line and staff once again. I'm going to look at the very back. The HR management? Well, part of it, because they might have an overall view of all the personnel within the company. So they're going to have a look, and I know of all of you what your competencies are. And hopefully I know where I have some shortages within my personnel. So HR is going to help with an HR future planning. But who else will have a good view into this? Line managers as well, they're involved in this needs assessment as well. They're the ones having interviews, they get daily feedback, so they know what's going on in their teams. So it's both of them. And then if you identify, okay, there's a need for training, you get to the difficult question, well, what training fits best? And these are the various options that you have. And there are many of them. And most likely, most of you think of a training, you sit, you listen to someone, and you get a training, like we do it here. How much do you think you remember after you leave this class? How much will you have remembered of my class? May I ask it to you? Yeah, what percentage will you remember from my lecture? 25? I wish it would be. Would be nice. Of course, I'm a great lecturer, so you'll know. No, what they figured out during research is that you remember less than 10%. Less than 10% of a training like this, you remember. That's not a lot, is it? So if we talk about the improvement of productivity, like you just suggested, we're going to measure afterwards, and now you get an expensive training. This is the training. I'm going to measure afterwards. You remember less than 10%. I send you to a congress of €3,000 for 2 days. You come back entirely enthusiastic. Oh, it was great. I learned everything about search engine optimization and great. So tell me what you remember. Not a lot. There goes my €3,000. So which trainings will be more beneficial? Which trainings, if you see these, where will I remember more, and what will really make sure that my productivity raises? Which one? Role-playing. Role-playing already is more effective than having a lecture like this. True. Is there one which is even more effective? Internships. They're a lot more effective already. Because what do you do with an internship? You learn on the job. Learning on the job is a lot more effective than having a course like this. And same thing with, does everyone know what job rotation is? Job rotation means that you switch jobs with someone from a different department. Gives you a lot of insight and a lot more comprehension that if you do sales and you say to a client, oh sure, we can sell everything, and usually production starts complaining, why did you promise that to that client? We're not ready yet, so you shouldn't have promised this. So it helps if people sit on each other's department and they're a lot more comprehensive to each other.
What is the difference between an internship and an apprenticeship?
They're very much similar to each other, so I actually would have to look at it as well, see what the real difference is between the two. So I wouldn't even know at the moment, I would have to look it up too. E-learning happens a lot more at this moment, and every one of these trainings, they have their pros and cons. E-learning, you see it a lot more. Very cost efficient. Everyone, I can just send out all of you, you can all do the e-learning training at the same point in time. Great. Is it very effective? I don't know. Working at the workplace, doing internships, doing job rotations, that is a lot more effective, but more costly. And this is always the difficult judgment that you have to do as an HR department. Does anyone have an example about serious gaming? Did any of you already do serious gaming as a training? Do you know what it is?
What we did with Kahoot?
What you did with Kahoot? But slightly, yeah. It's a bit of introducing a game to it, but it's not the serious gaming which we mean here. Okay. One of the things, for example, in the army, they use it now. They really use simulations. You play like a Warcraft game, but it's actually a real world where you take decisions. You see the effect of your decisions. So it's gaming, but it's serious business because you pretend to be in a real life situation. And specifically with the virtual reality, it becomes even more real than it used to be. So it is putting you in a serious gaming environment.
So it's not the same.
But what's then the difference between simulations and serious gaming? Because
serious gaming is also
Yeah.
kind of simulation.
True, they are related to each other once again. So sometimes they change the words and the names as well. And serious gaming is even more because they start integrating virtual reality as such as well. So it's even more extensive than just simulate making a computer game of a situation. I just asked you a question. Remember, how can you measure the effect of a training? And you said, well, one of the things you could do is that you asked, what did you say again?
Compare the performance before training and after training.
Compare the performance before and after. That's one of the things you can do. It's already difficult. The most easy thing is, of course, to ask you, I sent you on a training, the €3,000 training, you had the 2 days off. You come back and you say, oh, it was a great training. What did you learn? I'm going to ask you. Right, ladies. Thanks. So the first one is the easiest one. You just ask someone's feedback after training. Was it worthwhile? Yes, it was. You write a report about the training, telling what you learned during the training. That's the participants learn. Well, that's actually the second step already. Is the participants learning of the content of the training. I can test you. I can test afterwards. You do a training, and I test your knowledge. That gives me some more insight. Before the training, your knowledge was not as high. Now you did a training. I give you another test. Your knowledge goes up. Could be nice. Even better, the participants use. I can see at the workplace that you use your new knowledge. That's already more of a learning. Great if you can show this. And even better, that was actually the last one more or less, that I see that the company's return on investment goes up, the profits go up. That would be even nicer. This one is more difficult to really link it to the training. Was it due to the sale training that the improvements were made? And this is usually, I already said, who decides when you need training. This is another cycle that I would like you to remember for your exam. It's usually asked a lot. This is what they call the management cycle. So don't mix it up with the HRM cycle. This is the management cycle. And you probably remember that this is one of the elements of an exam. What happens if you all work for my company and somewhere during the year I'm going to have interviews with you. I'm going to ask you how well you performed. I start off with having a contract interview with you where we decide what your goals are for this year. If you're a product manager, I'm going to make agreements with you and you're going to develop new trips to Slovenia and Bulgaria and another country. That's the goal. Halfway through the year, we have the work performance interview. And during this interview, I ask whether or not the goals that we set beforehand, whether or not they are reached. At the end of the year, there's a work evaluation. And this is where I give you a raise in your salary if you did an excellent job, or if you didn't do too well, I give you new goals for next year. In this management cycle, the manager usually finds out whether or not you need additional training. So this is why the interviews, why they are so crucial. It also states here that people can set up a personal development plan. And ladies in the middle, may I ask you, what is a personal development plan?
The goals you want to achieve for your personality in the next whatever time. Like how you want to improve yourself. Not only like your
you want to improve yourself. Yeah? It has to do with your career development. So from here up to the next 5 years, how would you like to develop yourself as an employee within the company? Very good. And you usually use the performance appraisal interviews to discuss with your manager how you would like to increase, how you would like to develop. Very good. Okay. One of the elements that they usually use if you talk about training and development is that what companies can do is they can decide to use what they call competency-based management in a company. And that's another term that I want you to remember for an exam. Competency management is usually linked with soft human resource management. Next to competency management, other HR companies use more performance management, where they focus on the goals and the outcomes. Here at NHTV, we use competency management as well. I don't know if you've noticed already, but by the end of 4 years, you should be capable and you should have the right competencies that you need as a tourism business manager. Do you have any idea of the kind of competencies that you need at the end of these 4 years? Any clue? One of the competencies that you should have by the end of these 4 years is that you should have sufficient knowledge of human resources management. Is one of them. Another competency is that you should have financial knowledge. You should know something about tourist experiences. Is another one. Another one is that you should know something about change management and how to deal with change in a company. So in total, 10 competencies that you should have. Within a lot of organizations, they use this similar competency-based system. And just to give you a brief idea on how it works, I want to show you a video about competency management. It's about 5 minutes, and then I'll end the movie. What I would like you to do is, while watching, write down what competency management is according to you. You should be able to answer that question. You should be able to tell me what is meant with a competency. So while watching, keep these 2 questions in mind.
An introduction to SAP job architecture. As leading organizations strive to get ahead, a critical challenge is to align talent across the enterprise with strategic objectives and organizational needs. The talent management processes working to meet this challenge include recruitment, performance and review, compensation, learning and development, and succession management. In order to effectively assess and utilize human capital and to enable the efficient execution and integration of these core activities, a standard unit for the measure and comparison of roles and talent is needed. Best practice organizations define and use skill qualifiers called competencies as a standard talent measure. Many organizations have initiated the process of competency management with a basic approach, where each role, position by position, is examined and manually assigned the appropriate competency requirements. The various talent management processes then work to realize those competencies within the defined roles. This technique may suffice when working with small numbers of key positions. However, assigning and maintaining competencies for positions throughout all levels of the enterprise via the traditional position-by-position method is time-consuming, cumbersome, and subject to manual errors, leading to holes, inconsistency, and misalignment with organizational strategy. Another approach is required. A solution is now available: competency management via SAP Talent Visualization by Nikita. To appreciate competency management, it is best to first review the foundation on which it builds, SAP Job Architecture. SAP's Job Architecture is a framework to help enterprises group and categorize positions across the entire organization based on shared competencies. Let's walk through the 4 categories within the job architecture. In looking at the entire population of positions, we can achieve a great deal by simply organizing the positions into primary groups or functional areas, the broadest category of roles with shared competencies. In this example, we can group the positions into 3 functional areas: marketing, research and development, and accounting. Let's take a closer look at the marketing functional area. We can further organize the positions in the functional area into subgroups called job families. In this example, we have 2 job families: creative positions and management positions. If we move in and isolate the create job family, we see the next groupings, which are called jobs. In this example, we have jobs for writers and graphic artists. By expanding on jobs, we get to the last level of the job architecture: positions. Positions are specific postings assigned to individuals. Here we have web artist and print artist positions. To recap, positions are organized into groupings called jobs based on shared competencies. Similar jobs are collected into job families. And finally, job families are grouped into functional areas. Now, how does this framework help us to manage competencies? With job architecture in place, organizations can map competencies into any of the 4 categories. All positions that reside within a given category automatically inherit its competencies. For example, let's assign 3 competencies to the marketing functional area: communication skills, creativity, and attention to detail. All positions grouped within the functional area automatically inherit these competencies regardless of the subcategories. With this approach, organizations new to competency management can quickly make a strong start. By simply identifying a set of core competencies for the broadest categories, we can automatically and systematically define a good majority of requirements for all positions. Moving forward, organizations can define...
Okay. I would like to make a brief stop here. After having listened, I asked you, can you tell what a competency is after listening to this video? Could you give me an insight?
It's like I don't know how to word it. Like something you can do, ability.
It is something like an ability. That's part of a competency. It's an ability, but what else? Ask it. Okay, if I have an ability to drive, then am I a good driver immediately? No? What else do I need? I need a skill. That would be nice. So next to having the ability of putting a brake and being able to steer the wheel, I need the right skills to do that simultaneously maybe. I already heard experience as well. And I hear, who said knowledge? I need some knowledge as well about the rules in the, how does it work in traffic. So this is precisely what it is. A competency is a mix of knowledge, skills, experience, ability, and one more. If I have all of these in traffic, I have the right skills, I have the knowledge, I have everything. It still happens that in traffic, you have these people which you really dislike in traffic. Do you know those? They lack patience, I don't know, you don't want them in traffic. I don't want them behind me. So what is it you need besides all of the skills? You need the right attitude. That's a crucial element. You can have great employees in your company, but if they don't smile, if they're not friendly to your customers, it won't work. So that's another crucial element of this competency. What this video video shows nicely is that looking at your entire group of people here, all of you have different competencies. If I'm your HR manager, I want to figure out what the best competencies are that you have. If I want to put all of that in a system, quite time consuming. So they talked about some core competencies in this video. And that's a crucial element as well, what a core competency is. Because the core competencies of your company are those competencies with which you can distinguish your company from the competitors. And that's something that a lot of companies think about. What are the core competencies that we need in our company? Maybe it's creativity, maybe it's flexibility. If you look at Disney, they want the smiling people in their company. They want the best guest-oriented employees. And with that core competency, they are going to win the competition. So that's the basic of competency management. And the idea behind competency management is that you need motivated and talented people within your company with the right skills and the right attitude to meet the goals. That's why companies focus so much on competency management. This is the main idea behind the competency management. And you already nicely said, if you work with competency management, what is it that you do? Well then, you structurally work on the development of all of your competencies. So then I need to know what your skills are, if all of you have the right attitude, if you have the right knowledge. And I do so because I want to increase the final performance of my company. So here you nicely see the definition again. And one last one, because then I think it's been sufficient for you days of listening. What you do with competency management is that you think of your business strategy. If I think of let's say, what company will we take in mind? If I take Apple, everyone knows Apple. What is the core competence? Oh, well, let's start. What's the main business strategy of Apple? Development of technology. They want to be the first ones to always invent the newest products. That's what they want to do. If that's what their main business strategy is, what do you think that Apple has as their core competency? May I ask you? Creativity. Technology is not a competency. Technology knowledge, or being tech savvy is what you could call it. Yeah, so being creative, having tech savvy people, and maybe having very flexible people in your company, because the world changes so fast. Good listeners. True, I don't think they formulate it as their core competency. I do think it's one of the competencies that they will have a look at. Yeah. For now, I would like to give you one example of a company that all of you might know. It's the Efteling. It's the Dutch theme park, which is at this point in time the third or fourth largest in Europe. This is what they state as their core competencies. And one of the things they want there is having specifically very guest-oriented people. But I already see your attention is going down, so we're going to continue with this week, and